Welcome to From the Shed End podcast with myself, TDOT. As always, thank you very much for joining me now. It's been a while since we've done a match review, match preview. A lot's been going on. Obviously, we had the international break as well. Before we get into yesterday's disastrous game, let me just tell you guys that we do have our podcast From the Shed End on Spotify, Apple Music. So, of course, make sure you go and check that out. We're 50 episodes deep into the podcast now, so we will have another episode later on this week, to talk about Brentford in a bit more detail, and also look ahead to Real Madrid, or even look at the Real Madrid game in full. We've got the socials as well. Don't forget Instagram. We've hit 5,000 followers, so again, you can see all the socials above there, From the Shed End, Instagram, Twitter, and make sure you subscribe to this channel as well. Make sure you smash the like button and let me know your thoughts in the comments as well. But let's get straight into it. 4-1. Yeah, bad game. Very, very bad game. Bad performance from the players. It was shambolic. It's shambolic. The pluses, if there was any out of that, going back to the game yesterday, it kind of took me back to the West Brom 5-2, straight after an international break. We came into that West Brom game with the same confidence I feel that we came into the game with Brentford yesterday, thinking we were going to win. It was going to be quite an easy game. Part of me feels like Thomas Tuchel had Real Madrid on his mind already, rested a couple of the players that potentially would start in that game. Ruben LoftusCheek suddenly coming into the team. Timo Werner, who, we know is lacking confidence, doesn't look like he wants to be at the club, doesn't look like he can score a goal. For him to start, it's always tricky after an international break, how the team comes back together and getting that cohesion back into the team. So I didn't expect a massive goal fest from us. I didn't expect 6 or 7, but I expected us to put in a better performance than we did. But like I said, going back to West Brom, we went on to beat Porto in the Champions League. I expect us to do even better against Real Madrid this week, but it was shambolic. It was shambolic. It was defensively shambolic. I thought the left side of our game, having Alonso in a back four, just didn't work. Thomas Tuchel, for me, I said on a podcast yesterday, Thomas Tuchel, for me, is the first time I've questioned him tactically in terms of what he's expecting the team to do. It didn't seem like, Loftus-Cheek understood his role. It looked like Alonso wasn't comfortable playing in the back four. Me personally, I would have had Malang Sarr potentially playing in that left side of the back four, just because we've seen him do it before. He looked very comfortable. Even Saul Niguez, Saul Niguez can play in that back four and do a job. I think playing Alonso there, it isolated a lot of that play down the left side. We looked at Kante, that was playing in that sort of left side of that midfield as well, alongside Loftus-Cheek and then Mason Mount as well. It just didn't work. There was so much things that were wrong, but yeah, it's overshadowed Rudiger's goal. Rudiger, I think, has been trying that same goal, 4 years now. He's been trying to get that long range 40-yarder. He's been doing it for so long that, eventually it was going to go in. And the way that he took that goal was brilliant. The celebration was brilliant. I was impressed with Rudiger. I think he was arguably, one of the better players that we had on the pitch yesterday. But that's not to say that, all the other players should have done better. But yeah, it was shambolic. It was shambolic. Let's get into the match ratings. Because I think we need to do this. So I'm gonna go from front to back, as I always do with these match ratings. I'm probably being generous. If I'm going to be honest, I'm being very generous with some of these match ratings. I don't think they're probably realistically they should be scored lower. Let's be honest. But I've gone for Mendy first of all. Obviously, I gave him a 5. I think back to the third goal and the Christian Eriksen goal as well. I go back to those goals and I think performance-wise they should have done better. I think it was a poor performance from Mendy. He wasn't to the standard that we know Mendy can do. I think the third goal, he goes down a bit too quick. He allows the goal to go over his head. But apart from the goals, there wasn't really too much asked of Mendy. It's just unfortunate that Brentford had 4 opportunities to score and they took all 4 of them. But overall, I thought Mendy potentially was a 5. I thought he'd done very well. I was happy with his performance. I thought like I said, he didn't have much to do, but when he did get called upon, he was very sort of sluggish and didn't look like, the Mendy that we know. The Mendy that we know can put in good performances. So I've given him a 5 on that basis. But again, I'm being very generous here. I could have gave him a lot less than that, because to concede 4 goals against Brentford in a game that realistically we should be winning, for me that is generous to give him a 5. Chelseafc, I mean, I'm gonna say this. For me, and I've said this before, if you've got someone on the bench, i.e. Reece James, for me, I'd start him. I would have started Reece James at right back and put Chelseafc at left back in that game against Brentford. I think it works. I think if we have Cesar at left back, we have Reece James right back. If he's on the bench, he's fit enough to play 90 minutes. If he's not fit, Tuchel wouldn't put him on the bench. I get that he's trying to save him for Real Madrid. I get that he doesn't want to, just throw him straight into a game. But Reece James has a lot of time away from football. I think he's had about 4, 5, even 6 weeks of not playing competitive football. He's had his rehabilitation. If he's on the bench, he's fit enough to start the game. That's where I think we went wrong. I think we went wrong there, because it isolated Alonso a lot. We exposed him a lot on that left side, with Werner ahead of him as well, Kante ahead of him. It just didn't work. But in terms of Chelseafc, again, I'm being generous, but I've given him a 4. He didn't. Again, he was probably at fault for some of those goals. I think Brentford on the second goal, it's disastrous, man. I mean, how do we allow Brentford that much time to counter from their own end? I think we had the ball. I think Hakim Ziyech loses the ball in the final third for us, trying to go on an attack. And in the counter attack, we end up against, I think it's like a 3 against 2, and we still get a goal. We still concede a goal. Alonso, Hakim Ziyech, and N'Golo Kante all follow the ball. Every single player follows the ball, and they leave Christian Eriksen in the box empty, free. You can't do that. Christian Eriksen is still a world-class player. World-class player. World-class player. If you look at the stats of when Brentford have played without Christian Eriksen and the stats when they've played with him, he's too good to be left unmarked and given plenty of time on the ball. It was schoolboy. It was schoolboy. Chelseafc got a 4. Thiago Silva. Listen, I've said so many times on here, for me, he's been one of the best centre-backs in the Premier League, period, since 1992, in my opinion. Yes, there's been other centre-backs above him, John Terry, I think about Yatstam, Rio Ferdinand, all these centre-backs that have come through, Sol Campbell. I look at these centre-backs and they're brilliant centre-backs, but I look at Thiago Silva, obviously Virgil van Dijk as well. I put him in the same category as them. But yesterday, he was off. He was off yesterday. He was at fault for at least one of those goals. Again, very, very inexperienced from Thiago Silva. It was a very off day for him. I've given him a 5, very generous. Again, I could have gave him a 3 or a 4. Made some good tackles, sort of last ditch tackles. Got his body in the way a couple of times for some of those Brentford plays going forward. But I expected more from someone as experienced as Thiago Silva. I expected a lot more. Rudiger, I've given him a 7. I've given him a 7 on the basis that he scored his wonder goal that he's been trying for 4 years. And to be honest, out of the back 4, Rudiger was the only one for me that was actually trying. He was actually doing what he was supposed to do defensively. He was switched on as much as he could be defensively. But when you've got someone like Alonso next to you, or, the back 4 isn't playing together, then of course it's just disjointed. You can't defend on your own. So, Rudiger, I gave him a 7. I think he deserves his 7. I think he's, I've said on here before, he's someone that we really need to try and tie down. Obviously, there was talks earlier last week that his representation had gone to, I think, Barcelona to try and talk about a deal over there. But, if we can keep Rudiger, obviously we have Silva, we've renewed Azpilicueta's contract as well. So, if we can try and keep this core defensive back line as it is right now, add to it hopefully in the summer, I think we'll be fine. But let's move over to Alonso. who I have a love-hate relationship with Alonso. You know, sometimes he gives me those games where I think he's doing okay. He's gonna, you know, he puts in a very good performance. You know, he might score, he might give us an assist or two. But yesterday he was poor. I feel like changing that from a 5 to a 4. I feel like changing that. I might do that. I'm gonna give him a 4. He says 5, he's getting a 4 because he was awful. He was awful yesterday, and you know he doesn't get forward in the back four. He doesn't play well in the back four. He doesn't play well in the back four. He should, for me, like I said, Aspilicueta or Malang Sarr or Saul Niguez would have started ahead of Alonso for me in a back four. Back five, of course, Alonso can get forward a bit more. There's a bit more protection behind him. You know, you got your centre back almost covering you as you're making those runs forward. But in the back four, you just don't have that luxury. You don't have that luxury to get forward as much. And Brentford exposed a lot of that yesterday in the game. And you know, I look at Alonso, and yes, I don't want to scapegoat him, but he should have done a lot better. He should have done a lot better. I'm going to start off with Ruben Loftus-Cheek in midfield. Because I've said on here before that Ruben Loftus-Cheek had the quality, and I'm going to change this to had the quality to be a very good Chelsea player. Had the quality, doesn't have the quality, had the quality to be a very, very good Chelsea player. If you look at all the other Chelsea graduates around him, you know, Tammy Abraham, Mason Mount, Reece James, all of these players, Conor Gallagher, all these players that have gone on and they're doing very well, you know, they're doing really well. He's from the same class. He graduated with all of those players and they're all doing very well. So it tells you, yes, he's had injuries, granted, but how long can we honestly say that Ruben Loftus-Cheek still has time to develop at Chelsea? He's had two loans, Palace and Fulham, I think. Two loans. He's still come back, and he still looks as the same player that we had in the youth setup a couple of years ago. He doesn't look like someone to me. Yes, he was playing very defensively in the game yesterday, but he just didn't get in the game at all. I don't know if that's Tuchel giving him instructions that he didn't understand, or he just didn't feel comfortable playing in that sort of defensive midfield role. But it just didn't work. And I mean, he was, for me, the worst. You know, a 3 is probably giving him more than he needs. He could have got a 2 if we're being honest, because it was poor. But how long are we really going to give Ruben Loftus-Cheek at Chelsea? How long are we really going to say that he's got time to develop? Yes, he's still relatively young in terms of football years, but there's still levels that you have to play at. And if he's not doing that at Chelsea, even when he gets a chance, he's still not really doing it unless it's a team like Plymouth or Luton or, you know, FA Cup lower league teams where he's playing and he looks like a good player, or in the Europa League a couple of seasons ago, he scored a hat-trick. He looks okay in those kind of games. But when push comes to shove and he's got to actually play some football, he's got to command the midfield, he doesn't do it. He doesn't do it enough. And I think for me, you know, his time for me, we have to think now. He's had 2 loans. He played very well for Palace, actually. I'll give him his credit there. But that might be his level. No disrespect to Crystal Palace, but that might be his level. That might be where he needs to go and find some steady football, consistent football, and play to the level that he is. Because at the moment, he seems to be playing at this high level. The expectations are very high of him, and he just can't cope in that midfield. He just can't cope. So a 3 for Ruben Loftus-Cheek for me is generous, very generous. Mason Mount, I feel like Mason's playing too much football. I feel like he plays a lot of football. I didn't really like the role that he had yesterday. I don't think it really worked. I think obviously you kind of to play 4-3-3, you kind of have to move Mason Mount into an unfamiliar role that he's not necessarily comfortable, or you're not going to get the best out of Mason Mount in that role that he played yesterday for me. Kind of isolated him a lot in the game. Didn't really get much chances to create anything going forward. Wasn't able to get into the pockets of space as well. So he kind of just, you know, he wasn't able to work the channels either. So it was kind of like a nil and void kind of role for Mason Mount in the game yesterday. He didn't do enough for me. I'm even struggling to see what he did yesterday, actually. He didn't really do anything. So I think a 4, again, I'm going to keep saying this throughout this video. I think a 4 is very generous to Mason Mount. He didn't really do much. He didn't do enough. He didn't do anything. So moving over to Kante, again, very generous. A 7 for Kante. Reason I've gone for 7 is because I feel like, Kante, as much as, he wasn't at his best. We know that Kante is still world class. He's still got the ability to play, against any team, any opponent, and he should be able to play a variety of roles. But I feel like for me, again, I would have liked to have seen someone else play on that left side and maybe put Kante in the middle of the pitch as opposed to Loftus-Cheek. I think we would have got more out of him. He would have been able to cut up a lot of that play, because Brentford, if you noticed, at times they went long ball, times they were playing counter-attacking football, and there was just no one in the middle of the midfield to pick up those passes or those possessions of play from Brentford. And I think if Kante was there, he would have done that job. That's his role. He likes to get stuck in. He likes to just get the ball and recover the ball and stop those transitions, but it just didn't happen. It didn't happen. He wasn't able to do that. Again, he was very ineffective in the role that he had. I do think he definitely played a part in midfield. It could have been a lot more than 4 goals if we're going to be honest, but I've given him a 7. Again, maybe very generous, but I gave him a 7 for the role that he played yesterday. Timo Werner. I'm going to say this, and I'm probably going to get slated when I say this, but he's got to go. He's got to go. He's got to go now. He's got to go back to the Bundesliga. He's got to go to Dortmund, Bayern Munich, Bayern Leverkusen, anywhere but Chelsea. His time is done. He's another one, another Ruben Loftus-Cheek. How long are we really going to give Timo Werner to, we, as Chelsea fans, I think we all gave him the pass. We all gave him the excuses. We all gave him the opportunity to improve. We've given him, and he still hasn't done anything. He doesn't look confident on the ball. It was just, again, I'm struggling to think what he done in that game yesterday. I'm struggling. I don't know what he did. He's got to go. He's got to go. I think his time is done. I think we've given him the opportunity to do what, needs to be done in terms of a player that needs to develop. I don't know if it's the fact that he's been given a task or an ask from Tuchel, and he's just not understanding it. He's not able to deal with the pace of the Premier League, the competitiveness, the strength of the Premier League. I don't know if he's able to deal with that physically. I don't know, but he just doesn't look like he's going to fit into this team at all. And it's a shame for him because, when he came to the club, there was high expectations of him doing well. Obviously, the link up with Kai Havertz, a German coach in Thomas Tuchel. It all seems like it was ready-made for Timo Werner and Kai Havertz as well. But to see Timo Werner, I mean, a 2... I'm not going to say it's generous. I think that's what he was yesterday. I think he was about a 2. It was a shocking performance from him. I can't believe that we've got someone of that quality, which we've seen him do in the Bundesliga, come into a team which, we're not really playing to any of those strengths. When you look at the front three, especially yesterday, we don't really play to their strengths as such, but still we got to get a tune out of someone like Timo Werner. You should be able to get something out of them still. And we're not doing that. So, there's talks, I think, earlier last week that he's open to a return away, back to the Bundesliga, away from Chelsea. We need to just cut our losses and take the loss on this one. Even a 40 million, 35 million bid, cut our losses. I think we need to start doing this with certain players, and I think Timo Werner is definitely one of them. But a 2 for Timo. Maybe the 2 touches he probably took in the game. I think he created 0 opportunities. I mean, I'd love to see his stats. If someone can pull them up in the comments, I'd love to see his stats for yesterday, because I don't think he done anything. So maybe I'm wrong, but from the game I was watching, he didn't do anything. But Hakim Ziyech, I thought he was probably arguably our best player on the pitch. He's hit a good bit of form. I don't think he deserved to be on the losing side of a 4-1 team for me. I think him and Rudiger were the only 2 for me, maybe Kante as well, that looked like they were up for the fight for the game. And even when we went to 2-1 down, it was still opportunities for them to try and do things. And Hakim Ziyech is one of those players that loves to try and create chances. He likes to whip the ball in the box, and sometimes it just needs the right person in the box to be able to get onto the end of it. But I think Hakim Ziyech, for me, he's coming on slowly. I'm seeing a lot of progress with him. He played very well yesterday. He was just unfortunate, for him that he's come up on a losing end. So a 7, I think, for me is probably justified. Kai Havertz as well. Look, Kai can try and make things happen as much as he wants, but sometimes it is the players that are around you that he needs as well. I look at, again, I'm going to mention Timo Werner, but I do think, had maybe a Pulisic, we was able to use someone like Pulisic in that role, or someone of that level. Timo Werner isn't the level that we need. So I think for me, Kai Havertz is someone that we need to try and play to their strengths and utilize as well as we can. So yeah, I mean, I'm struggling to even still process this game, if I'm being honest. I feel like we were poor in the game. I felt like we deserved the 4-1. I feel like we deserved that. It was a wake up call, I think, for Thomas Tuchel. You can't go into these games. You can't go into these Brentford games, Brighton, Southampton, Burnley. These games where, no disrespect to those clubs, but where you kind of feel like you're not the underdog. And you can't disrespect them, because I think back to the Brentford game, I think against Liverpool earlier on in the season, and against Chelsea as well when we played them at their grounds. We have to remember how well they played and how well they started the season as well. And they do have some very good players at Brentford. So I did expect a very tough game, but defensively we were schoolboys and it wasn't good enough. And I think we need to seriously hope that when we've got this kind of result out of the system, it's just a bad day at the office. But I feel like we need to seriously think now about Real Madrid kicking on our season. We have a big game against Crystal Palace in the FA Cup as well coming up. Southampton, I think, next in the Premier League, between those two games in the Champions League. But we really need to kick on with our season, very much like we did last season, but I think we really need to do it this season. People will say maybe the off-field antics is why we struggled yesterday. I just put it down to bad form in terms of getting everyone back from an international break and then having to come into this game as well. Yes, the off-field stuff maybe is playing a part, but look, we should not be losing 4-1 to Brentford. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are, the situation that we're in. We're now looking at top 4 as a successful season. And I think at one point, December, we were in the race for the Premier League. We're now looking at top 4. We got a lot of teams behind us, Arsenal, Tottenham, who are looking to get that 4th spot now. And it's going to be tough the last couple of games of the season, so we really need to kick on and get something out of this. But of course, like I said at the very start of this, if you haven't already, make sure you go to Spotify, Apple Music, listen to our podcast. We do talk about a lot of stuff on there. We go a lot more in depth than we do on these match reviews as well. And of course, make sure you follow the social accounts as well. And do not forget to subscribe to this channel. Smash that like button. Let me know your thoughts in the comments about the player ratings as well. Of course, this has been TDOT, myself. Thank you very much for joining me. Until next time, stay safe.